We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
Welcome back to Cactus Wrestling.
Another cactus video.
Yes, here we are. So today we will be discussing some changes that we would like to see on the world stage at the UWW Wrestling World rules.
IOC, all that. Just
Yeah,
in
any of
USA
them that can
wrestling
make
too.
international rules for freestyle different. We have some gripes with that.
Oh boy, do we have some gripes.
Yes, that we will discuss and go over, and you all can let us know if you agree, disagree. I think a lot of these changes would just be better for the sport overall, especially for all fans, casual or the most devoted. But yeah, Mike, kick it off. What's the first one we want to dive into?
First one I have is gonna be with injury time, and this is no specific order, just so you guys know. Like, I don't like this or dislike it more than anything, but injury time. Um, Americans are known for their gas tank on the world stage, and certain countries aren't.
Yeah.
Iran is especially one that kind of runs into gas tank issues often. And part of the American strategy is like, hey, we're just going to keep going, going, going. And eventually we're going to tire them out and we'll break them and then we'll score. But what you're seeing more and more often, and you saw it in Nick Lee's, I want to say quarters match,
Okay, yeah.
where the guy just kept taking injury time and kept taking injury time and kept taking injury time. And it's an unlimited amount of injury time. So you're allowed 4 minutes of blood time, but you're allowed unlimited injury time.
Yeah, I saw the blood
So,
time clock
yeah,
start anytime.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like they have a blood time clock. Why not have an injury time clock? And you have guys just laying on the ground, rolling back and forth like they're flopping in soccer or basketball. And you're like, oh, yeah, God, like clearly he's not hurt if he's able to just go back up immediately and wrestle when the officials finally force him to get up.
Oh,
He's
because
like
yeah, no,
walks.
it's a self-imposed injury. It's not
Yeah,
like the ref stopped the match. Yeah.
exactly. I just keep thinking about to the match where Nick Lee was wrestling the guy and he's just holding his back and he's walking slowly back to the center and he's like pointing to the ref, and then he like lays down and Nick Lee is like looking at the ref like, what? Come on, like let's keep this going. He's catching his breath, like that's not fair.
Right.
And this happens all the time. Like in USA folk style wrestling, if you have two injuries, um, automatic choice to the other guy.
Right.
They could either do that in freestyle where they say, okay, hey, here's how it's going. You're going into parterre position. You're going down. If you call
Yeah,
for that
they
twice,
could do that. They could even put you on the shot clock,
yeah.
like as a
But there should be some sort of injury time, not just this unlimited amount that they have.
yeah.
And there should be a punishment for continuing to take it if you take injury time twice.
Yeah, especially because if people are abusing it to that extent, like that,
Yeah.
that's like basically an unfair advantage. Like, oh, this guy's gonna beat me because I'm getting tired. Let me just take a break.
And it happens. It actually happens. And it's like, dude, like youth wrestling in America, we have the rule that you can't take more than one injury
Yeah,
without a punishment. Like you're telling me 30-year-old men at the world stage can just be like, no, my leg, trust me, it's hurting me.
trust me, it hurts so bad.
Like they have these ATs like jog out to the mat and they look around, they're like, yeah, like you're fine. And the guy's like, no, 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 I have to stay down a little, like 10 seconds more.
No, no,
They're
no,
like
no.
sitting back on their hands and I'm like, my goodness, like it's not like, and even if you're hurt, that sucks. But
Yeah,
part of being in the sport is not being the best all the time. It's being the best when it matters at the worlds.
yeah.
Like if you get hurt, it's part of how it goes. It's just, I'm not wishing anyone to get hurt, but it's part of the sport is being the best at the most important time.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to adjust the rules because, like, in some capacity, because yeah, if people are abusing it quite like that, then that's not how they intended to be applied. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a great one. Um, another one that we want to bring up here is that there are two bronze medal matches.
Oh, geez. I hate this so much.
I don't understand who came up with the idea that there are 2 bronze medal matches? Um, like, why can't those 2 people that win in those 2 bronze medal matches then wrestle to see who gets the bronze medal? Like, it's
I
one more match. That's it. Uh, I don't get it.
I it it doesn't make any. I'm sure there's a reason for it. There has to be like some reason for it. I never looked into it because I just think it's foolish.
It
Um,
yeah.
I mean,
No,
even again, like referring back to youth wrestling, some tournaments do a true second where they're like, "Hey, if you're on the other side of the bracket, you might have won, so you're allowed to challenge the guy that took second for
right.
true second." It's like, okay, we're doing that, but we're not going to have these guys wrestle for true third. We're gonna be like, "Hey, you both took third."
Yeah, I just even whatever reason they have for it, it still doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, one of you lost to the champion, one of you lost to the runner-up, and yet you both can earn the exact same thing.
Yeah,
I the consolation final or repechage final. That
repechage, fine, yeah.
that would be I think that would be so much better.
And I think it would actually be better for seeding for future events. Like it's like, hey, he was the actual third, not like, oh, he took third out of
Right.
2 guys that took third. I mean, we
Yeah.
have no idea how that could shake out, and it could be huge for team points potentially.
Right. No, that's true too. Yeah, because yeah, you could get more points by winning the following match.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, especially if it ends up in a close team race.
exactly.
But I mean, what you were just hitting on seeding, that was another thing you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I I know that UWW and the IOC have a seeding criteria. Um, and people have pissed and moaned about it. I'm going to be one of those guys right now. My issue is that the criteria is dumb, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
so a lot of guys, if you don't do the ranking series events, you don't move up. And that makes sense. You know, if you don't wrestle, you shouldn't move up. But then you're going to have a guy like David Taylor, who's won worlds, I don't know, the last 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that's not true because he lost worlds to Yazdani that one year.
Right. Yeah. No.
You
Yeah. But
won the
still,
Olympics, lost worlds,
doesn't
won
matter.
worlds,
Three-time
won
world
worlds.
world
Yeah,
Olympic finalist like that.
four-time world and Olympic champion. They're gonna be like, oh, this guy, 7 seed.
Yeah.
And they'll confidently put that thing down. They'll be like, David Taylor, 7. And they'll be like, any questions? Okay, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I think that they should use criteria the same way that you would use for states. Is like, hey, how did he do last year? You know, that's something that should matter more. I mean, Yazdani and David Taylor were going to meet in the finals regardless of their seeds because they're that much better than guys. But I'd be pissed if I was a guy that was on David Taylor's side of the bracket and had to wrestle him early and say, dude, what the heck? Like this guy
Yeah.
I should not see him so fast.
Like, I could have been in the world semifinals.
Yeah.
Why am I seeing him now? Or
And
even if Yazdani and
yeah,
Taylor were seated on the same side of the bracket.
for sure. I mean, they
Like,
were at one point. I
yeah.
think before they switched it. And it's the same thing with like Sajalayev and the Russian Belarusian athletes. They were like, oh, because of what's going on, we're just not going to seed them. It goes, okay, but that only screws over everybody else.
Yeah, that I don't know. We're just not going to seed them. Why?
Yeah, I don't understand it. And I know like there's a lot going on like geopolitically, and I'm not going to get into that. But
I don't see what not seeding
yeah,
accomplishes.
that's what I mean. Like I don't see what they're like. Oh, like this will either stick it to the Russians or not stick it. I don't know.
But yeah, I also like you were saying, I really don't understand why like the returning world champ could potentially go in like unseeded. Like,
Yeah,
how does that not give them a guaranteed seed? Or like, if you're the returning world champ, you're the returning 1 seed. Like,
yeah.
like yeah, that seems crazy, right? No, that's like you can't do that.
I mean, look, like I'm gonna think of like how the CIAC does it, where they have like win percentage, quality wins, how you placed it, you know, your state qualifier, your state open, New England tournament, national tournament. And they factor all that in. And that's a high school like getting it better than like the world committee.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just it makes no sense to me. Where
It's frustrating to watch because like brackets can just be like this is stupid how this is going to play out. Like it shouldn't be all these guys clumped together meeting so early.
Yep. And then like you'll have a guy like and not to discredit Seabass at all, like Sebastian Rivera that had a great tournament, made the finals. But watching that side of the bracket, you're like, man, like theoretically, if Nick Lee was on this side, he probably would have made the finals too.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's not to discredit Sebastian Rivera or hype up Nick Lee. It was just the seeding was interesting.
I mean,
That
yeah, Austin
Seabass went so
Gomez,
high.
instead of being in Nick Lee's side, if he was on Sebastian Rivera's side, who knows? Maybe he would have been fighting for
Yeah,
finals. Oh,
you
that would.
know, it's just interesting, and I would really like to see them take a hard look and say, like, look, I know we have this criteria, but maybe it's not the right thing, and we should probably consider other avenues for this.
Yeah, no, it definitely would be worthwhile, I think. So here's a hill I'll go stand and die on. Is I think the application of the passivity rule as it currently stands is just stupid. It is just plain dumb. Like, I understand in theory what it's meant to do is, oh, you're put on the shot clock. You're going to now be incentivized to now try and score in that 30 seconds. But I would love to see the statistics on how many people have been put on the shot clock and actually ended up scoring. Because I've never seen someone get put on the shot clock and they change how they are currently wrestling. They get put on the shot clock and they just keep moving
Yeah,
as
they do the exact same
nothing
thing.
has happened. And then they give up a point. And like, if you're just like a casual viewer, like, and you're like, what just happened? Literally nothing happened. The clock started 30 seconds. Now this guy's got a point. Why? Like,
Yeah.
and the one of the chief examples that still grinds my gears is Helen Maroulis at the Olympics in the semifinals. All 3 points were passivity points. It was a 2-1 match, and all three were passivity. And these are two of the best women in the world. And it was decided on neither one of them trying to score. Like, I don't believe that for a second. Like, that neither one of them was not trying to score. Like, I hate it. I hate how it is currently applied. Like, it needs to be changed. Like, you should be, if you're being passive, you should be penalized in some way. But the way it currently stands, it's just like the fact that that could be the determining factor of a match. I hate it. I hate that could be like, I won because I put the person on a shot clock, or that it's valued the same as a push out. It's valued the same as any other penalty point. It's valued the same as a reversal. Like, and it's half of a takedown or an exposure. Like, why is it valued that strongly that especially when they require that someone is winning at the end of the first period?
Yep.
Like, why does it have that kind of value? If that's the case, then up the point values for everything else and make this the only thing worth a point.
The shot clock is so crazy to me. It's I don't necessarily have a problem with it in general, but like the passivity point is what bothers me. Whereas like
Yeah.
you could see two guys going hard and taking multiple shots in a match in the first period, and it's still 0-0. If no one scores in that first minute, they're putting someone on the clock.
Yep.
And that's my problem is that, like, hey, like, isn't it supposed to be passivity if they're not doing anything? Both guys just have really good defense. Like, you're going to fault one guy for having slightly better defense than the other, even though they're both shooting actively.
Right.
And it's not an objective thing. It's subjective. You can say, okay, I think you were doing less work.
Yeah, it is way too subjective. Like, it should be very clear cut. Like,
Yeah.
And the way it currently stands is not. Which,
and I would say the kicker to it too, and what you alluded to is most guys do not care about the shot clock point.
no,
Like, they've
none of
never
them
been
do.
like, they're so rarely it's like, oh, you've been warned, like, okay, and then they won't change anything. They'll give up the shot clock point, like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I know. Like, so clearly it is not a deterrent to the being passive. Like, they still act just the same.
I do have a problem, and you referenced it with like Adeline Gray's match for the Olympic trials, where she
Oh,
was
with
wrestling like,
freaking
yeah, where she
Guilford,
had
Diamond
yep, she had
Guilford.
three with a the 3 points with it, where not the out of bounds rule necessarily, but like oh, we didn't try hard enough to circle back in, so that's a caution and one.
Yeah, yeah. So
And it's
instead
like,
of it being a push out for one, it was 2 points, and it happened 3 times. Yeah,
and it's like, well, that's a caution and one. It goes, well, what dictates if they're trying to force them, fight in hard enough? Because you see it a lot where you're like, oh, that's one, and the ref's like caution and one confirmed. It goes, what the heck? Like they were clearly trying to work back in.
yeah. No, it's too subjective. Like
Yeah.
if you get a ref that could have a bias against a certain country, they're not going to be getting any good calls there. Like and there's nothing that the wrestler can do if that's the case, which is a shame. Like it needs to be refined. It needs to be changed in some way. Like there can still be a passivity, there could even still be a shot clock, but the way it currently stands is not good.
On the same topic of that, it makes me think of Lexi Janiak, who got in trouble for fleeing.
Right.
So some of you guys are hopefully big fans of not just senior level wrestling, but like juniors, cadet and U23. And Lexi Janiak was someone that got absolutely hosed by the reffing committee. She probably should have won a world championship, and instead, I think she took third. She was up, she was winning, and just like the last few seconds of the match when guys just are shooting erratically and the guys just circling but staying in the center.
Yeah, she is. That's
She,
exactly what she was doing too.
she never went out of bounds. She was never warned. She was never cautioned. And they ended up hitting her for a caution and one, which she lost her criteria after the match ended.
Yeah, that's true. The
So
ref
the
didn't even
match
call it.
ended. Yeah, the match ended. And in the corner, I think it was blue corner, hadn't had a challenge. And I also dislike this. You shouldn't have like these match and deciding challenges that you just throw as a whim. Like
Right.
that bothers me that the match could be over and they could be like, you know what, challenge it anyway, just to see what happens.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a YOLO brick that like,
Yeah,
okay, there's nothing to lose by doing this. We already lost. Oh, hey,
and
look that we won.
exactly, and that's what exactly happened in Lexi Janiak's situation where she got screwed over by a ref.
Yeah.
Horrible. Like I felt so bad watching it because she was, I think, juniors. She's younger. Like she's crying on the mat. It
Yeah.
was from a match that she won and had stolen from her because like, oh, like even though you were maintaining center and not going out of bounds and up in points, that was fleeing. So
Yeah. Nah,
and
yeah.
we didn't have to warn you. That's just a point. So now you lose. Haha.
Yeah, the fact that
Off a
you don't
YOLO
even
brick.
need to be warned and you can
Yeah,
get up the point, like
yeah,
that. I remember after that happened, I went looking through the rules and like the way it's worded, it like technically it's basically a subjective call of the ref who
yeah.
can just be like, yeah, yeah, that's a point. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And it
So
seems
okay.
like Team
You can
USA, and I've talked to Mike and others about this off camera, is that Team USA is kind of infamous for not being well liked on the Olympics and world stage by the refing. And if you've watched a lot of senior level wrestling and you're a big fan of America, then you might notice that like sometimes more often than not, calls don't typically go our way.
right.
Um, we're a little bit more scrutinized. We're a little bit more, harder to judge against. We don't usually get if a call is controversial, controversy doesn't typically go in our favor. Um, so
Yeah.
the subjectivity of all this refing, I'd like to see kind of taken out a little bit and make the rules a little bit more objective, but
Yeah,
also no more YOLO bricks.
well, yeah, no, but like with them being more objective, I feel like as a fan watching it, even if you aren't a wrestling fan and you just happen to be watching it because it's like,
To
hey, look,
follow.
this is on. Like it's yeah, you easier to follow. It like it's clear and understandable. Like, oh, cool, that person did that. They get points for that. It's very clear. Like we watch it and we're like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why
Yeah.
that gets called the way that just got called. Like it
You
doesn't
have
make sense. Like
It happens all the time. You have so many wrestling like coaches and fans like try to break it down and like argue with one another about why the rule is that way. It goes, if you have to argue a rule, maybe it's not a good rule.
yeah, yeah,
I also continuing on like I don't like the slip rule. And if you guys, some of you guys may know what that is, some of you may not.
yeah.
It's like, hey, I try to go for a side headlock and I miss and I slip out and I fall flat. And you land on top of me. It's not a takedown for you because I took the risk.
Right.
And again, a little bit too subjective. It happened in Amit Allur's match where the girl went for a headlock and Amit slipped her off, pushed the elbow off. Girl fell flat. Amit covered, no two. And she's like, what
Yeah.
the heck?
Yeah, I've seen it happen both ways where like they've
Yeah,
called it as a slip and then like it looks almost the same exact thing, and then they
exactly.
call it as a takedown, and I'm just like, I don't know what qualifies it as a slip then if it's that was roughly the same thing. Especially when they do like an arm spin type thing, like that's something that just it doesn't it doesn't track. Like it should be consistent across the board.
Yeah, I think that it should be a consistent takedown no matter what. Um, in folk style, and I keep referencing folk style. I know it's freestyle and Greco, but in folk style wrestling, if you go for a side headlock or some big throw and you miss, you are not faulted. It's like, hey, be better. That's a
Yeah.
takedown for the other guy. You went big and you failed.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that maybe would be a half measure between the two would be like a point instead of a 2 point. But like still, it's
I don't know.
you shouldn't be like just it's a free pass. Like I got no risk hitting this.
I
Um,
mean, I think it should be pretty black and white because there's so many judges that are gonna be like, well, it looked like a slip.
yeah,
So
look,
I think it should just be I think it should just be a takedown. If you fail for a takedown and you give up a takedown, then it's a takedown.
yeah, no,
Um,
yeah. I that's the with all these international rules, it should be more cut and dry. It should be
yep.
so clear. Like I feel like there'd be less wasting times challenges, and like you'd have everything would just be so easy. And like one that doesn't make sense to me is why do we even have matches that can end in a tie? Like,
Criteria, yeah.
why can't we have overtime?
Overtime.
Like, why doesn't that ever occur? Like, what you have all of these different breakdowns of how who's winning based on what, if it's a tie, and that someone is always winning. I mean, as a viewer, that's not really clear. The score's the same. They have a line under theirs, so that means they're winning. Like, that is still not very clear. Like,
Yeah.
just have it be whoever has more points wins, and then have some sort of overtime where like first person to score wins, and there you go. Like I don't know what their aversion to overtime is on the world stage.
I think trying to explain like criteria to a casual like wrestling fan is not easy. When it's
Oh
like,
no.
yeah, it's tied, but he's technically winning. It goes, well, why? It goes, well, uh, he might have had a 4 point throw, but he had two twos and a four, and he had a four and four ones. So yeah, it is 8-8, but his eight's better than his eight.
Yeah, that's the thing. Why is 1-8 better than another? Like, it's the same. You both did things to score the same amount of points. Just make it. It would. I feel like make it so much clearer and cut and
Have
dry.
some
Like,
sort of
oh, boom.
overtime.
Here we go. Overtime. You wrestle this amount of time, and then you could. They used to have overtime. They used to
Yeah.
have like the like clinch positions, if or something like they need to go back to. I feel like that's a better way of doing it than this. I mean, as it currently stands, I think it's better than the win best 2 out of 3 periods.
Oh, that was so stupid.
But like, I feel like the people that are making these rules are just
Yeah.
like, all right, I've never seen wrestling before, but this could be good. Like they throw out the most bizarre ideas. It just is frustrating to watch sometimes,
Oh.
especially when they're not used as like imagined or how they were supposed to be done in theory.
Well, I know I have one more. I don't know about you, but my last one's a bit of a doozy. Um, I hate Americans competing for other countries, but it's not what you think. Everyone always says, wrestling is one of those sports that's an individual sport where you work toward a team goal.
Yep.
Same thing as swimming, same thing as, track, cross country, field events. Why is it that we're only allowed one entry? So
That's
I would
true.
love to see, you've seen USA, sprinting or Jamaica, especially for running, where it's like, hey, who finishes first, second, third? Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica.
Right.
American swimming. We have America, gold. America fighting for the silver and America bronze. It goes, oh,
Right.
what a three-way finish. We should be allowed, not to like poo-poo other countries, but there's some countries there that go 0-1. and our number 2 guy would probably take third.
Or our number 2 guy could take gold, Stefan.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I would love to see these guys not have to be like, oh, I should go to other countries. Like Stefan Micic, the
Yeah.
Valencia brothers, Gomez, Sebastian Rivera,
Amin, who's bronze
Amin
multiple
family.
times.
Yeah. Like, these guys should not have to go to other countries. I mean, I don't want to, punch down on like a small country like, San Marino, but I don't know how much they're investing in their wrestling because Amin trains at Cliff Keen. He lives in Ann Arbor. He's coached by Americans.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
he
Serbia
goes,
gets the credit.
yeah, he goes to the
Or
corner.
not Serbia, San Marino.
Yeah.
That's
But it's the same thing. I mean, this guy lives in America, trains in American facilities. Who coaches him at Worlds? His American coaches. And then he runs around with the San Marino flag. And I have no problem with that. Maybe it's a little bit nationalism, but I would love to see USA Wrestling continue to grow and say, hey, our guys are so good at our 1, 2s, and 3s that why leave the country and compete for other people? I'd love to see an American versus America bronze medal match or gold medal match and say, like, hey, how great is our depth that our world finals are an American versus an American?
right.
And you would
Yeah.
see the same thing. You would see Russia versus Russia. You'd see Iran versus Iran. You would see the big countries really dominate. I mean, Russia Nationals is insane.
Yeah.
The wrestlers that make or don't make the team, it's insane. It's the same thing with Japan. I mean, I would love to see the Japanese women go bananas at, Worlds where you're like, man, this girl is so good, but she's just not enough to make the team over 7-time world champion from Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how about all these people that are sitting in the shadows that'll never get their chance?
It would be great, like, because if they could just have a qualifying event, like you have to do a place at a qualifying event or something, like have enough where you could get that extra, even if it's just one extra person per country, like so that way it's like not guaranteed that every country gets a second person or a third person, but like
Yeah, there should be a qualifying process. Like, hey, like if your guy's not good enough to make it, then hey, America doesn't get a second, or Russia doesn't get a third, or Iran doesn't get a fifth.
yeah.
But if like some of these guys, RBY going to Mexico, he knows for a fact for the rest of his life, as long as he wants to, he will be on the world team.
Yeah, that's true. And same
And
with
there's
Austin Gomez.
Yeah, and there's no one that's going to stop these guys, and that's awesome. I love Americans wrestling, and I love to see them continue to wrestle. But hey, you train a guy, you coach a guy, you want to keep that guy. You don't want him going off to who knows where to beat your guys that he's training with in the same practice room.
Right.
I would love to see them open it up like other sports do to more slots, and have, you know, for track. They say, okay, let's say you have to qualify for the 100-meter, you have to run under a 10-2. There should be some sort of qualifier for wrestling as well. Swimming, they do the same thing.
They have plenty of international tournaments, so like it wouldn't be that hard to just name, all right, that one's a qualifier. You need to medal at this event to get a second spot for your country.
And then what would I do? We could circle all the way back to say, hey, now these guys have to qualify that seeding criteria.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Comes full circle. Yeah. We'll get on the IOC and the UWW and we'll make the rules. Cactus Wrestling, the rules.
Writing a strongly worded email.
Yeah, strongly worded email. Take under advisement, please. We are Cactus Wrestling.
I think that's about it for my rules. I don't know what else.
No, that was all the rules that I had that I wanted to discuss. But yeah, let us know what you think. If you agree, if you disagree, if there's other rules that you have issues with in freestyle. I know we weren't really discussing Greco or folk style much at all, but like, yeah, we would love to hear from you, see what you got.
I mean, a lot of these apply to Greco anyway. It's the same kind of criteria.
That is true.
So I would say just, international style wrestling.
International, yeah, that we touched on all that good stuff. So please let us know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will catch you next time
on Cactus Wrestling.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.